I'm excited today because I've been waiting for this comedy enforcement video. I wanted to review it because I like what comedy enforcement does and the unique perspective, but also Bert Kreischer makes me very angry. So I had to just sit on it for a couple days to get mentally ready so I don't lose my shit on my video. You know, that's bad. We don't want any of that. So I'm gonna see if I behave myself. I have not watched this. And I hope Bert just like maybe grasps on reality, but from the title, from the comedy enforcement video, I don't know if he's going to. So if I lose it, you could just say what you want in the comments. It's cool. I understand. But let's go.
Some people watch sit at home, they watch specials. They're like, I love stand-up. Some people, they're like, you know, I know that you're a stand-up, but I like that you do this.
Yeah.
And I'll come see you because of the other thing, but I'm not like a stand-up guy.
Think about those kids that are YouTube kids who go do a live show and they sell out a live venue. And those aren't stand-up fans. Those are just fans coming to...
They'll go for a meet and greet.
Yeah, they'll go for a meet and greet. Look, if we can if we can trick people into coming to see us to do stand-up by some two dumb dance videos, and people are like, dude, that made me laugh. I'll go see them.
As a fan, you go...
That kind of sucks because a lot of the YouTube people have made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos, most of them failures before any of them start to get traction. Some people, Mr. Beast, right? Not a great example of a human being, but just it took him 10 years. So like where you did one special, these people have done hundreds and sometimes even thousands of videos to not even make as much money as you. They can make a lot more money. There's some people that have made more, right? But most successful YouTube videos don't make as much money as you and have had to work 5,000 times harder. You know, like one good video, you know how long that takes? Imagine making hundreds of them. You know, so like, come on. There are some YouTubers that get the gift of going viral over some crazy video and then they make a career out of it. Most don't even last. They get a little bit of viral fame, but most YouTubers have had to work incredibly hard. So like, yo, Bert, chill out.
Go, okay, good for you, Bert. I'm happy for you. But the next year, if he's at the Timberwolves, you don't see him again there. You'll see him at the Pantages every time he comes.
Yeah.
Your favorite comedian. But you're not going to go see him at the arena every year.
Tom did his arena tour, was coming everywhere. And then I'm doing Tops Off as my arena tour starting in February, and then I think I would love to say I'm done for a year, but I don't have that brain. I wonder when I'll do stand up again.
Well, you're probably gonna just slowly build again, right?
Yeah.
So for the past couple of years, Bert Kreischer has somewhat become a living meme within the Rogan sphere and the podcast world, mainly because of his wild and delusional behavior while recording podcasts, but also his massive success as a stand-up comedian has always left people wondering how a comedian whose biggest joke is to tell the machine story has been able to sell out arenas, have one of the biggest comedy tours in 2023, and had a movie made about that one story.
Look, here's the thing. You know, there's no problem with Bert Kreischer making money like this. There some people make money and there is no explanation for it. You know, like the ShamWow guy. Who saw the ShamWow guy coming, right? You know, who saw a lot of stuff coming? You know, some people, it's just, that's how the world works. The world is funny. The problem with Bert Kreischer is not that he's successful. That just happens to people. And, you know, you can't do anything. The problem is he just wants to be above people. He wants to treat people. It's like whenever you start treating people bad, that's when people have problems with you. So you just have to, like, you know, I don't know. I don't know if he could fix it though, man. This is Bert Kreischer. See, I have no hope. I'm just going to keep watching.
And for the longest time, we would always point towards Joe Rogan's audience as the answer for who was buying all the tickets to see him live. But funny enough, I was able to see Bert Kreischer live this past weekend along with Bobby Lee while I was out in Vegas for Skankfest. And to be honest, it was an interesting and eye-opening experience because not only did it answer a lot of questions, But now a lot of other things are starting to make a lot of sense because, to be fair, I went in trying to be as unbiased as possible. I thought that as long as I was able to see Bobby Lee live for the first time, it would be worth it. However, at the risk of sounding like the biggest Bert Kreischer hater out there, I have to tell you the truth, because keep in mind that I have seen most of the Rogan Sphere live or in person. But when it comes to Bert Kreischer, even though the bar was already set extremely low, it is shocking how somehow he was able to dip below that. So let's get started.
You know,
Is that not wild? Why? Man, guy made $32 million, right, off his tour. You know, if you just got lucky, or that's what a lot of people assume with Bert Kreischer, but wouldn't you just keep it together to like ride it out? 32 million plus another like 32 million, and then by the third and fourth year, people start getting, but another like 16. Then, the fifth year, you just make 10, and then, whoa, you're like, you don't need money anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand. There's like a money gun, and it's just shooting $1,000 bills at his face, and he just doesn't. And I get, like, not everything's about money, but wouldn't you be like sort of appreciative if you were given the opportunity to make money like that for just like being yourself, right? Wouldn't you be a man? Wouldn't you a little bit to keep it together for a few years? But it just seems with this guy, just it's worse and worse, and like the guy just has no clue because he's never had to do anything in his life. That is what frustrates people.
I keep going back to comedy, but there are people who are so delusional about their sets and who they are that you're like, and you're like, what? Like, I go, I just wish I had an ounce of it. I wish I had an ounce of it just to get through the rough parts of life, where you're like, where you wake up and you're like, I keep postponing going back on the road because I'm like, I'm not fixing anything. I'm not slowing down. I'm not doing anything to grow myself. I can't go back on the road yet. So I keep pushing it. I mean, I'm still doing
though.
I'm doing Vegas, or I did it, I guess, already. But I think with not getting on stage and not doing stand-up, and I'm trying to distance and just write, but I'm not living. And then I go like, how are these people like so wildly confident? Like, it's almost like Christianity. Like they just like it's like like an air of superiority. And I go, I wish I had just a little bit to wake up with,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, some people have an incredible belief in their or delusion in themselves. I mean, I will say this about stand-up. I've said it to you before. The way I'm touring now has made this so much more fun for me.
Really?
It was so fun. And
what
I think
made it fun?
I mean, I
just want to point out to you conspiracy theorists right here. Many of you did not even notice this, but if you do believe that Tom Segura really is a serial killer, allegedly, there's good evidence in this video, and many of you will be going, well, what do you mean? Well, what's one thing that people, use to clean up a crime scene? Bleach. Do you notice he came to work? He didn't have an extra shirt, so he's trying to wear it fashionable, but that's a shirt, just a plain shirt you would use to clean up a crime scene with. That looks to have bleach all over it. Anyways.
I have to say this, just because I've heard people, both in stand-up and observers of stand-up, this old saying of like, it's never the audience. Okay, it's always the audience. It's always the audience. So when you show up to these a show and you have audience that is energetic and excited to be there, it becomes, this is a symbiotic thing. It's like you play off each other. So they're energized and then it energizes you. So that dance that happens when it's like that, there's just nothing more fun.
Now, when it comes to stand-up comedy or comedy in general, as we all know, it is very subjective. What I find funny, other people might not. But in this case, because we did see a lot of other comedians that weekend, from Bobby Lee opening for Bert to a lot of other comics at Skankfest, I think it is fair that we compare Bert's comedy and his sets to everyone else, even though his style of comedy is extremely different and might even need his own category, because it's not just storytelling, it's more like actually rambling and doing a podcast but on stage. But okay, we'll begin with some of the positives. So right off the bat, the venue was great, the staff was very friendly and very helpful, and they didn't make you lock your phone up in a little bag, which is nice. But the biggest positive and the reason why I thought it would be worth it to go see Bert was because Bobby Lee was opening for him, and since I've never seen Bobby live, I was actually very curious to see what his stand-up was like, especially because he doesn't have a lot of comedy out there and no comedy special. And to be honest, I was a little bit skeptical. I thought it would be a situation where he was funnier on podcast and not so much on stage.
It's the pressure of doing a special now.
Yeah.
I would just be thoroughly disappointed to have to watch Bobby Lee say anything. I think Bobby Lee is just gross. Just looking at Bobby Lee makes me feel bad about myself. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not. I just like the way he acts and the things he's done throughout the years. He's just really creepy. And when you see someone creepy, you see them as gross. And I just think Bobby Lee's just gotten away with too much. And like, he needs to buy shirts with longer sleeves. That's like stuff you do when you're like a teenager and you have a growth spurt. Short people, I don't know if you know about that, but us tall people, when we had growth spurts, our shirts would, go up like this, and you have to go get new ones. You know what I mean? Bobby Lee should have new shirts. There's no excuse, man. This podcast is making it's made millionaires of these people right here. The real strange thing is Bad Friends is one of the top podcasts on Spotify. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy that these two, I don't know, man. I think the world is being brainwashed and is like sensible and logical. I just don't know. I don't see what attracts people to these people. And I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't see why you'd be attracted or want to hear anything from these people. But like I said, I'm terrible as well. So who knows?
He texted me, this guy.
It's just like,
He texts me and he says, I don't like this pressure. I said, what pressure are you talking about? I said, don't push. Let it go. Let it happen on its own.
well, they came to this club.
Yeah.
They didn't come to the club. They came and they're like, we need to sit down with you. I go, what do we need to talk about? Like where it's going to be, what we expect it to look like, this and that. It just made it so fucking real.
There is no pressure.
Okay.
It's also not for a whole calendar year.
Okay, that's right.
And you know what?
What?
You're prepared.
I'm ready.
You're ready.
Yeah.
You deserve it.
I deserve it.
People deserve it.
But here's why I fucked up. I should have done one a long time.
That's right.
Do you know why? Because I've held out this long, I feel like there's way more expectation on it.
No.
Is that not true? No?
Probably.
No.
Oh, thank you, Carlos. You don't think so?
Carlos, you're
the worst human.
such a fucking...
You're a piece of shit.
I mean, it's the truth, dude.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what? Yeah. This is good.
And also, both of these guys need to invest in skincare. They really need just some essential, like some vitamin E oil. Get in there. I just don't. If you're making $1 million off of a podcast, you should take care of your skin. It's the only one you got. You should take care of it anyways. But I'm just saying, there's no excuse for these guys. I tell you, if I had some disposable income, I'd just buy really nice oil. I don't think I'd go get a facial. It's people touching me. It's kind of weird. But I don't see why these guys,
This is good. This is good. No, really.
Right. People don't believe it's going to happen.
Right.
Well, I signed the contract.
Sure. But America doesn't.
Do you think I can pull out?
You sure could. How could you not?
And also, a lot of other comedians like Andrew Santino have made fun of Bobby Lee for supposedly, going on stage and pretty much just pulling out his junk and stuff like that. So I really thought that he might do something like that, which I'm not the biggest fan of. But man, he absolutely destroyed. I mean, you could tell that it was a tight 20 minutes. But then he also had Nate Bargatze come out as a special guest and did very, very well. I mean, he had a killer set that apparently he's doing on SNL by the time this video comes out. And so the fact that he had both Bobby Lee and Nate Bargatze opening for him means that he knows that he needs to provide value, because he could have very easily gotten two random openers that were not that funny to make himself look better. But if he would have done that, that would have been a complete scam. However, again, the fact that he had Nate Bargatze do his monologue that he was going to do on SNL, that is pretty cool. And again, you could argue that Bobby Lee and Nate were the ones that were carrying the entire show. I mean, they were the only ones that had actual material and were professional about it.
I love making stuff like really go into the next thing. Like, that's how you remember your act.
Right.
Is you're like, well, the only thing that could come after this is this. Like, if you're talking, I'm talking about my kid, then I'm talking about my wife. Well, like they go together, and so you put them together, and then you put all this stuff together, and that's the aspect of creating a show, and that's where, like if you see young comics or even young entertainers, it's like that's why it's like do an act, dude. Like, you got to create, even in a 5-minute thing, at least have a system.
Yeah.
That you're like, I'm starting with this, I'm gonna close with this, and I'm gonna try to make them make it seem like I'm not going in between each thing.
Unless you're one of those non sequitur guys. I've always felt like those guys have the hardest job.
They're not funny either. I'm sorry. Mitch Hedberg is not funny. I just didn't find him funny at all. It just, I come on. Really? I just rather someone tell stories or tell jokes, but that I was a fork, and then I had some food, and I was like, yow. What does that even mean?
That would make me nervous with those guys. That's why it is amazing to be able to write these jokes, to be actual joke writers, which is, this stand-up it's how stand-up started, just this joke writing. And to be able to do that and just crank out these jokes, it's unreal.
I love the fact there's so many different styles, too. I really do love the fact that there are these, like, absurdist, non sequitur guys, and then there's other guys like you tell, like, stories. Mm-hmm. You tell, like, long stories, and people get sucked into your rhythm. It was very fun watching you last night going on After Tony, too.
If you were to win,
if I was to win
$100,000,
if I won $100,000, I could pay Bobby Lee, and I'd be good.
Hey, Bobby Lee.
I can pay him $10,000,
Oh,
Bobby.
okay.
Yeah, but like $100,000, is that a lot?
Yeah, but we'll do it.
Okay. I'm going to be at Resorts World September 27th, 28th. I got a $250,000 marker. We'll go to your casino. We're going to play Baccarat. And I'm cool at $100,000.
Now, whether that's a lot of money or not, I'm not sure. I mean, to me, it is, of course.
Yeah.
But it is Bobby Lee at the end of the day. And again, he did do way better than Bert Kreischer did. So based off of those two performances, Bobby Lee's and Nate Bargatze's, it was worth it paying money to go see the show. But now looking back, even though it was the right thing to do, there is a chance that having Bobby Lee and Nate opening for Bert ended up working against him, because at least from my perspective, being able to see the massive contrast between a comic like Bert Kreischer versus comedians like Bobby and Nate was pretty mind-blowing, because again, both Bobby and Nate had written and material that was ready to go, whereas Bert Kreischer, again, the best way to describe it was him rambling on stage like he does on a podcast. Even though I guess that is why his fans like him, but to me, it just came across as him being completely unprepared and almost like if he wasn't really that good at performing stand-up comedy. Because
Yeah, we know that. I wanted to say something about the Dana White thing. The thing about the Dana White thing, it was a big embarrassment for everybody. But the thing is, I think a lot of people go through it where you talk about yourself, and there's some periods in your life where you don't realize it, but all you're doing is talking about yourself, but you soon realize it because people won't be around you. But sometimes you're so insecure that you just got to talk about yourself so that you get some kind of reaction for people that goes oh, okay, I'm doing the right thing, And I just don't, Bert just has some deep-seated insecurity. And he just needs to be praised.
Even though he did mention on some morning TV shows that the show was simply him having fun and that he hadn't done stand-up for over 2 months, to be honest, I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of paying top dollar for cheap comedy, because even Bert Kreischer, before the show started or whatever, he did say that he, hadn't been doing comedy for over 2 months and that he was stopping for a full year or whatever after the show, and that he was doing material, a mix of material from his new comedy special that he just recorded, and also new stories that he came up with. And by the way, don't forget to like the video. It helps out so much, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
There is a I say this in all candidness. There is a confidence you get when you've done so many shows in front of your fans, and you know you can kill. I wish I had I know I have it. I know I can find it. I know I had it. But I saw these chicks come out when we were in Vegas.
Yeah.
Weren't we just in Vegas?
Yes.
Yeah. When we were in Vegas, I saw these chicks come out of the elevator, really maybe 400 pounds.
Nice.
Bikinis.
Yeah, people really don't give a especially in Vegas.
I was like, how did I want that? I want that confidence, that blinding confidence where you're like, this shit fucking slaps, baby.
I don't know, man. I mean,
I have nothing that I'm shooting, nothing that I'm working on. So it's just going to be fun. Like when I started comedy, it is just.
It's just that thing. Bert needs attention. And it's hard to watch, especially because I think a lot of guys, especially, we're always taught we have to prove ourselves and blah, blah. So there's so many times where you've fought for attention. I mean, we've done the same thing as Bert, right? And it's crazy. But the crazy thing about it is look at Bert's age. At that age, you should just kind of you get to that point where you probably a few years you didn't give a shit about nothing. You know what I mean? And you're, you should just be doing your own thing, not having to explain. Who cares, man? Life's short. You should be in that phase of your life. But this guy is still acting like he's 19. Yeah, can I get the job? It's wild.
Just going to be chaos on stage, a little crowd work, a couple cocktails, some stories you want to hear, and some new stuff that I think is going to be a great time. And some stuff that I just put in the special. It's going to be just a mashup of a great show.
But the funny thing is that you couldn't really tell the difference between material from the special and the new stories, because I assumed that the material that he wasn't struggling to get out was the material from the special, and everything else was the new stories, because again, it was pretty tough trying to follow along. He would begin a story and then jump to another one and then come back, pretty much exactly the same thing that he does on a podcast episode. He even does a thing where in the middle of a story he just stops and then calls random people, in this case his wife and then his daughters. And once again, I know I keep repeating this, but it is crazy how there's basically no difference between Bert Kreischer on a podcast episode and Bert Kreischer on stage, which to me, that is absolutely mind-blowing. And now that I think about it, if we look back to his performance at the roast of Tom Brady, that is actually a perfect representation of how he's actually like on stage, because of course, if you watch the comedy specials, obviously they're heavily edited, but if you watch his performance at the roast of Tom Brady, that is pretty much the same vibe that I got when I was watching him live. He was either nervous or unprepared or scared. It was just weird. And
here's the thing is Bert Kreischer has probably been doing the same act this whole time, just different little versions, tweaks, maybe a little thing, but he's been doing the same thing, and he's been living off of that Machine thing. And then the Machine movie came out, right? And so that Machine story is kind of getting played out. Everyone knows it. Maybe people want to see it. Who knows still? But it's kind of its lifespan, right? Outside of the comedy club, it's reaching its lifespan, and people want new stuff from him. Even his fans probably do. And he just can't do it because there's nothing to it with that guy, so he's stuck actually having to do something, and he just can't.
Although you could argue that he was just having a bad performance that night, or maybe that is his actual shtick. Maybe he actually pretends like he's lost and all over the place and nervous in order to come across as a relatable guy who just gets up on stage and tells stories, which, again, some people like that. but in terms of stand-up comedy, performing, and storytelling, he's definitely not as good as I thought he was based off of the comedy specials and just things that I've seen online.
It's a nice pace.
I wonder when I'll do stand up again.
Well, you're probably gonna just slowly build again, right?
Yeah.
You have your release date? You have your date already?
I have my release date. I have, but I'm not. I was planning on going out right when I released it, you know. But I think I'm pushing it more. I think I'm pushing it more and more every time I keep.
Well, you do what I do and like book some club weekends.
So what I think I'm going to do, and it's what I'd like to do is I want to go out for a straight month, just a month, do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all at clubs, one off, or do like little rock venues, not like theaters, but do clubs and really kind of have fun. Like I did that during getting ready for the special.
Yeah,
I took the bus and drove across country and did shows every night, and it was so fun in clubs. It was so fun. And so then I want to do that, and then I want to do theaters for like do a solid theater run where like I would love to go back to arenas, but if I go do arenas, I want to do an arena run that's right before I start to shoot my special. Like I want to do it like the arena run I did last year was just, I think it was a lot because I was doing arenas Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I was like, it was just a lot. It was a lot, and I want to really enjoy.
But okay, now let's move on to some more criticism about the show. And funny enough, we also did mention this back when we reviewed Andrew Schultz's live show a few months back, which is that it is interesting how they both try to prime the audience by before they go on stage by essentially showing them a 5-minute clip compilation of all their highlights and of all the comedians talking about how great they are. And if you're not familiar with them as much as we are because we just listen to a bunch of podcasts, that video does a very good job at making Bert Kreischer, in this case, at making him seem like one of the biggest comedians and one of the most loved comedians out there. And so even at the end, they show a bunch of stats like 100 million impressions on this, 100 million views on whatever, which is overwhelming. Who knows where those numbers came from, but it's almost like they're trying to send a message that if you don't like the show, maybe it's on you because, clearly Bert Kreischer has tons of fans that like what he does.
It's just unfair. It's I don't think it's that bad to acknowledge, like, you have to acknowledge at some point, because if you think everybody should like your stuff, what a disappointment you're in for. Like, there's going to be people that don't like you. There's going to be people that don't like you because they don't think you're good at what you do. There's going to be people that don't like you because of the way you look. There's going to be people that like you that just dislike you just for the fact. And you got to just be like, whatever. I don't know, man. Bert, I'm trying not to say some stuff. I'm gonna be honest. This guy, he's just like a giant baby. He has all this opportunity, and he just keeps. It's so. Just look at him. He just needs a diaper or something. He's just. All right, we're just gonna watch it.
Comedy thing changed the way I did stand up. If you look at what I was doing up until then, it was like horrible jokes. And then my next special, I told a story about my daughter putting her finger in the dog's mouth, and everyone was like, "Yeah, I got crazy kids too."
And your life changed.
And man, I made so much money off that one kid. It'll bum me out that someone will go, "This fat." All he does is take his shirt off. Like it's like the dumbest slam that is inaccurate to me. Is like, he's not funny. He never was funny. I go, I had to be a little funny. Like, are we gonna? It's like, never. Like, can you really say never? Can you really say never? I want to sit that guy aside and go, never. I've never made you laugh. Never.
How to make you this angry?
Yeah. How did I make you so angry?
I just think this guy is like. It's just unfair. That's what it is. You're allowed to have success. It's just unfair that you're just so ungrateful for the opportunity you've been given. And This guy, I tell you.
Like, what am I? Can we work on us together? Can we get into couples therapy and figure out why you hate me and what I'm doing to make you hate me?
But then once the video is finished, Bert Kreischer comes on stage, the crowd goes crazy, and then he takes his shirt off. Now, to be fair, I like to think of myself as a good audience member. Like, I was there to have a good time. I had a couple of drinks, and you know, the first 20 to 30 minutes, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it wasn't anything crazy, but it was basically just watching Bert Kreischer ramble live on stage. So all things considered, not that bad. But then about 50 minutes into the show, I started to realize that Bert Kreischer was one of those comedians who just does a bunch of time on stage instead of just a solid hour, which I'm not a huge fan of unless, of course, it's, you know, top tier material. But in this case, I don't think more time equals more value. And then finally, about an hour and 20 or 30 minutes into the show, he gets into the machine story, which I thought it was a joke, but I guess he does tell it every single time. And it is crazy how wild the crowd went. And it made me realize how many people, you know, pay money just to see Bert Kreischer tell the machine story live. And
I thought he was going to be, it just goes to show you how many dumb people are in this world. But he said, the paid money. Sorry.
Because of that, there is a high chance that for the past 4 or 5 years or whatever, the majority of his fans, like 70% of the people that bought tickets, you know, were fans of the machine story and just wanted to see it live for the first time. And potentially the rest, you know, the other 30% were a mix of the Rogan sphere and also marketing, which there's no denying that he's really good at that.
What is it like to have a story get turned into a movie? That's got to be weird as like a story that like you kind of have to tell now.
They're all so annoying. I can't believe. I'm sorry, world. I'm sorry, you know, intelligent being that created me. I'm sorry I fell for Joe Rogan. I really am. Truly, truly sorry. I know there are some pretty dumb things to do, and this is one of them. Forgive me.
Like if you do a show and you don't tell the machine story, people will get angry at you.
But they did it last time I was here.
Yeah.
We were up here and they started chanting the machine. And I was like, guys, I'm at the Comedy Mothership. I'm just did an hour 15. And that was one of the that's the coolest thing about that goddamn club is I see Ron up in the top and I go, I'll tell the machine if Ron comes down and tells tater salad. And the place is like, Ron White's here? If he had like
Yeah. One time he saw me when I had lost some weight. And he goes, "Man, you keep losing weight, you're gonna lose your whole act." I go, "I'm not you. Like, what are you talking about?"
People said that to me.
Yeah.
They go, if you lose weight, you know, you just won't have an act. And I went, oh, that's right. I no longer have a daughter or a wife.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And you're telling me I can't tell the machine anymore?
I was like, come on, player. You don't think I'm gonna have nothing else to talk about?
No.
And look,
I don't know, man. I think there's something deeply wrong happening in society where these men are considered top tier comedians. And you know what? You could say Jell is being a hater. I get it. In your head, because you have fallen for these guys, and you think I can't explain it to you, okay? But you're seeing that it's not that we're haters. We're just connoisseurs of bad comedy. And we know when there's bad comedy because we're connoisseurs of it, because we make these videos. So I'm just going to say for you, I think you need to get some help if these people are on your YouTube algorithm. I'm just saying. Just reach out, touch faith.
to be fair, now it's very clear that Bert Kreischer 100% knows and understands who his audience is, because he knows that they're not expecting some wild comedy or well-written jokes, and instead they were just looking for an excuse to go out and have fun, have some drinks, and see the guy from the viral videos, because that is one thing you got to give him credit for. You know, the fact that he is pretty good at marketing or promoting himself, even when it's not the right time or the right place. For example, throughout the show, he did have some bits that were clearly just plugs for Por Osos, his vodka. And since they were selling it at the venue, at the theater, he was promoting it a lot. For example, I won't tell the joke, but at some point, he actually had a bit about how one of his family members bought a bunch of vodka, a lot of bottles, and surprise, it turned out to be Por Osos. But on top of that, he was actually able to sell the idea or the narrative to his own fans that he's way bigger and funnier than he actually is.
Shane Gillis was the person I told him. I said, you're going to, because he was nervous about doing arenas because he had done arenas and they sound echoey. I said, wait till you hear my sound package. Wait till you see my my lighting package, all of it. You're going to really love it because I paid extra for it. I want the show to feel, I want you to.
Isn't that one of the complaints about Shane doing arena, that he had really terrible sound? He should have listened to Bert Kreischer. Who would have thought? Who would have thunk it, huh? Bert was right about that, and it's true. It's not like it's not some weird thing we got to take sides on. Good sound, in the arena, you have to. It's so big, and there's so many people, and it's just got to have a certain amount of noise automatically. You got to have the good sound so that everybody can hear you. Otherwise, you end up like Shane's tour, where everybody was mad at you in the arena.
If you're paying to see me in arena, I want you to know that I am appreciative of that dollar, and I'm going to put money back into the show. I'm not going to just do some cash grab. And
cut to Bert's doing a show by candlelight.
Louis said that.
I would like to do that.
And so,
do you know how dope that would be?
In the middle of an arena tour, I have a movie coming out. I have a Netflix special. I'm my fifth fucking special. I don't deserve it. I don't feel like I feel like there's so many people so much better than me.
It's not about that. You definitely deserve it, and it's not like so many people deserve it. No, it doesn't exist for them. You made a thing. You figured out a path, and you got through, and it's great, and people love it.
And we've mentioned this in the past, but the fact that he went out of his—
That's what I'm saying, man. Where's my path? Come on, where is my path? I just want to find my path, okay? Because, man, put me on that path.
Way to have an arena tour when there was no need to says a lot, because usually when a comedian does an arena or arenas is because it no longer makes sense to do a lot of theater shows to be able to satisfy their whole fan base or cover their whole fan base. And when it comes to Bert, instead of him doing, multiple theater shows in a weekend, he did one arena show in a city or whatever, and then moved on to the next. And it wasn't even a sold out arena to the max. He would actually use a large portion of the arena to set up the stage instead of doing it in the middle or whatever. It's not that big of a difference, but it does. You can see the difference when you see how many shows he had to do just to be able to sell a similar amount of tickets as, the top comedians of 2023 when he made it on that list.
I do think there's something, having done it one way and the other way, I do think there's something about that might be fun, and I think you would maybe enjoy, of picking the big theater in one of those towns
and
that you would do an arena
for the weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
And doing like 5-6 shows of like in a 3,000, 4,000, like that type of thing. There's just something about that size for, even though arenas are spectacular, amazing.
Yeah.
There's something really fun about doing a run of shows in a theater.
Dude, when I did my special, I did it in the theater, the Mahaffey.
I just don't understand these guys. They get so petty, and they, and like these guys are sitting here arguing. Oh man, I could sell out a show in a stadium, or we could just do like 4 nights in the theater, and it's like, y'all are printing money. Why do you stop focus on being pretentious and this and sad? Like, you guys are given an opportunity of a lifetime. Even isn't the best thing, just ride it out for a while. Many people would love to have that opportunity, ride it out.
I think that, the Mahaffey. And it was so different than doing it in arenas. It was so
on top, and it was like so there. I was like, God damn it, I missed the theater energy. I love arenas, but man, that theater energy is funny shit. Hey, can we switch subjects and talk about something I've been dying to talk to you about?
And now this is when things get very interesting, because one of you guys actually posted this on the subreddit, which is not very active, but I recommend you go check it out. Basically pointing out that on the most recent episode of Two Bears, One Cave, Bert Kreischer actually told a very similar story, or a joke that was told by another comedian on their comedy special that they released on YouTube very recently. And although I'm not saying that Bert Kreischer stole that joke, it could be a case of two people coming up with the same material. You know, the fact that it is very similar, it does raise some questions, and it's definitely not a good look, especially when it comes to Bert Kreischer, because similar to Joe Rogan, he also exposed another comedian for taking his idea or his joke, his story, and now he is in a similar situation.
One time I wrote a check to someone. It was I don't know if it was one of my buddies, and you know at the bottom of the memo part you could write what it was for.
Yeah.
And I wrote eating sweet wet.
Nice.
And my dad was really good friends with the bank it was his bank. I had a checking account under him, and that came in, and the woman read it and called my dad.
Pay the bills. Unfortunately, we got to pay the bills every month. We write checks. And on the bottom left-hand corner of every check is what I like to call an opportunity. And if you're not writing the word sexual favors on that line, get out. Get out. Get out. Thank you, but go. I had a roommate. He used to pay the landlord every month. I'd have to give him a check for my half of the rent due. $725 for sexual favors, okay? And he would have to go deposit it in the bank in person. It was before the apps. He'd have to wait online till they said next and be like, I'd like to deposit this check I received, $725 for sexual favors. He begged me to stop. He's like, Joe, stop. You got to stop, dude.
But yeah, once again, I don't think it really matters, because like I said, his fan base or his fans don't really care about comedy or stand-up comedy.
No.
And instead, they're fans of Bert Kreischer.
And I just think, where are you intellectually if you're a fan of Bert Kreischer? Like, I'm not judging you. Maybe I am. But here's the thing. I don't know. Is there a nice way to say it? I just know, if you like Bert Kreischer, you're just brain dead, I think is the best way we could say it. But that's okay, because there's hope for you. Buy my masterclass.
Or the machine story, which is pretty cringe. But again, that's why I mentioned that there should be another category for Bert Kreischer, because he did trick everyone into thinking, or at least his own fan base, into thinking that he's an actual top tier comedian up there with Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart, when he's really not. I mean, based on the numbers, he is. Numbers don't lie. But based on the material and his comedy, he's definitely not.
Terrible.
I mean, he's many levels below them.
Under the sea.
What really blew my mind was how bad he was at performing, like when he was up on stage. Again, based on the comedy specials, I thought that he would be a good performer like any other comedian out there. But it's very clear that he's not really a good performer, unless, of course, he's doing it on purpose, which I don't think he is, because once again, there's basically no difference between Bert Kreischer on a podcast and Bert Kreischer on stage. It was actually that bad. He was rambling, he was forgetting the bits, there was no structure, it was just a mess, and it was hard to follow, especially, after sitting down for over 2 hours.
Oh my God.
I know, it's not as easy.
Oh my God.
I know. Not all of us are f***ing darlings like you f***ing chubby-headed f***s. Anyway, so...
We should tell you our story. I think it'll really frustrate you.
I think you...
They all are evil. That's all I'm going to say. They're all evil. This is like the group of evil meeting up. Look at them. Just look at all their faces. They're all faces of people you would never trust in real life.
You hate our story.
Especially that one.
No, I'll tell you when we're done. I'll tell you
anything.
That guy owned an auto. Tony Hinchcliffe looks like he owns an auto shop in the hood that is undercover, like laundering what for some bad people. That's what that looks like. It looks like a tire shop guy. Yeah.
like the set, I probably would. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You guys phoned it in like an Israeli airstrike.
$25. Good tire. Last option, 25. Good tire. I'll sell you used tire, $25. You know, when you're strapped for cash, you're like, give me 4. He's like, that's $125. And you're like, wait, but it was just bigger. 125. And you're like, all right, it's the best deal I can get. I can only get 1 tire for that cost. That's Tony Hinchcliffe.
I'm joking. Anyway.
No,
Bert was lip syncing my set and his set at the same time.
Tell me.
Okay, anyway.
And also, the final thing that I wanted to go over that I thought was really interesting was how Bert Kreischer during the show, he did say that he was stopping comedy or he was stopping stand-up comedy for a whole year. And then when I watched the most recent episode of Two Bears, One Cave, he pretty much confirmed it. And he also mentioned that he wasn't doing arenas anymore, and instead he was doing theaters and potentially clubs, which is a massive change from his from how he was talking just a few months back.
Yep.
It makes you wonder if it's an actual, like a natural change or an honest decision to change, or if maybe he saw that another arena tour wasn't really possible because of the ticket sales. I mean, who knows, but it will be interesting seeing what Bert Kreischer has to say for the next couple of months, it's wild because going from doing arenas to doing theaters, it's not a bad thing. I mean, doing theaters already, it's insane. It's a whole different lifestyle than, doing clubs, which is already a lot of money. But I guess for Bert Kreischer, it's not enough, which would explain why he decided to do a random show the same weekend as Skankfest when he didn't have any material ready to go, because he basically sees a 5,000 seat theater the same way he does a club, which is just absolutely insane in my opinion. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe to support the channel. Dislike if you didn't like the video. But that is all we have for today. See ya.
There you go. Bert Kreischer. Is this the end of Bert? I hope so. A lot of times I try to be neurological, but I just think the world would be better without Bert Kreischer's comedy. We don't need it. We need to be uplifted, not pulled back down into the mud and the mire. So another good video from Comedy Enforcement. Go like and subscribe and thank them for making this good video. And Bert Kreischer, just get a grip, brother, man. Just get a grip, brother. Just get a grip. Blame it all on my roots. Showed up in boots and ruined your black tie affair.